There is a very clear trend and has been in opinion polls over the last number of years. One of the more recent ones talked about the future of Ireland within the EU, and that represented, I think, a 60% plus support for Ireland's position as an entire entity, the island within the EU. So the opinion polls and the demographic changes have been heading in one direction for the last number of years, and I believe that's irreversible.
When Andy Burnham gets the keys to number 10 Downing Street, he will become one of the most Irish of UK Prime Ministers due to ancestral roots deep in Donegal. As Mayor of Greater Manchester, it's said he took an interest in Irish economic policy and development, and it's quite possible he may be spending a lot of time during his premiership in discussions with our neighbour to the west. Simon Harris, the Deputy Prime Minister of Ireland and leader of Fine Gael, has announced his party will publish a blueprint for Irish unity in November, and polling shows support for unification is pretty strong in the Republic and in the North. So, how will Andy Burnham approach Irish relations? And is there a chance he could be the British PM to push forward on one of the most consequential constitutional changes to the British Isles in a century? Well, today there is a, quote, Future of These Islands conference in Belfast. It's brought together members of Irish and UK political parties, and Senator Conor Murphy is there. He's the leader of Sinn Féin in the Irish upper chamber. Senator Conor Murphy, thanks for joining us on The Times at 1. How are you looking at the prospective premiership of Andy Burnham? Is it going to be business as usual, or could it be the harbinger of a fundamental shift in the Ireland-UK relationship, do you think?
Well, I sincerely hope it will be. I think, he's not the first British Prime Minister with Donegal roots. Actually, Tony Blair had Donegal roots as well, and he obviously was very keenly involved in Irish affairs at the time of the Good Friday Agreement. We are now almost 30 years beyond the Good Friday Agreement, and clearly having settled to a large extent the peace issues out of that, there are still legacy issues to be dealt with. We're now at a time for a new chapter in relation to that, and increasingly, as you referenced, across the island, parties are coming together in discussions. Academics, grassroots, community groups are coming together in discussions about what does the future of Ireland look like. That will require a conversation between the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister in Ireland, and the British Prime Minister. And we hope that conversation begins sooner rather than later, because, as you have said, the momentum has clearly grown in terms of polling. And we want to manage this in an orderly and a peaceful way and a democratic way. And the Brexit experience teaches us when things are done at a rush and without all information on the table, then the chaos that can ensue. So we have no desire to have the same chaos in Ireland across the island, but that will be a managed conversation between the British Prime Minister and the Irish government, and we would hope that will start to take place very soon.
Well, I get it in the sense that you're a senior figure in Sinn Féin and you want there to be a momentum behind conversations, as you put it, about unification, but I would say to you that in London there's no real interest in having serious substantive discussion about Irish unity, is there? I mean, there's lots of warm words about always respecting, the mood and public opinion on both sides of the Irish border, but in the end, nobody believes that there's going to be a sudden speeding up of a debate about unification.
Well, people may have thought there was no danger of leaving the European Union in 2015, but there you are, it happened in 2016. So the events can overtake and move at pace. And as I say, what we want is not just a referendum, which is the provision for which was contained in the Good Friday Agreement. So we have a mechanism that's already been agreed by both governments, and the responsibility of both governments if a referendum is successful.
Yeah, but unless I'm wrong, sorry to interrupt, but unless I'm wrong, one of the key conditions before a referendum can be contemplated is a clear and settled view in Northern Ireland, judged on opinion poll after opinion poll, that there is a deep desire for a referendum on Irish unification. And at the moment, the opinion polls, they go up and down, but there isn't that clear and settled view amongst the people of Northern Ireland, is there?
Well, there is a very clear trend and has been in opinion polls over the last number of years. One of the more recent ones talked about the future of Ireland within the EU, and that represented, I think, a 60% plus support for Ireland's position as an entire entity, the island within the EU. So the opinion polls and the demographic changes have been heading in one direction for the last number of years, and I believe that's irreversible. I believe the sensible thing then in that, recognising that, is for both governments then to ensure that the change that is necessary and that will happen at some stage, hopefully in the not too distant future, is managed in an orderly way, and that requires them to be in conversation with each other. So whether it is high on the radar for London at the moment, it certainly will be in a very short period of time, and the responsible thing for both governments is actually to begin that early engagement and to start to map out how that would be managed, how it would look, and how we can do it in a way which provides maximum information for people who will be voting in such a referendum. And there are to be referendums both north and south in relation to this, and a lot of that work has been done and begun organically. A huge amount of conversations, academic studies, economic studies have been done organically. It's really now time for the two governments to come on board that process.
Yeah, you know what, Senator Murphy, I looked at that study you're referring to, the one that had 60% plus of people in Northern Ireland, according to the survey, in favour of Irish unity within the context of the European Union. And what I noticed is actually the figure in Northern Ireland was higher than the figure in the Republic. And I would put it to you that many people in the Irish Republic, where they look at an economy that is actually growing far faster than the UK economy, they look at a status quo which in many ways suits them right now. Why would the people of your own country, the Republic of Ireland, want to engage in a highly complex and tortured debate about unification right now, when many of them might believe that it would leave Ireland in a worse place?
Well, it is the great unfinished business of Ireland. I mean, Ireland was partitioned against its wishes under the threat of war by Lloyd George and his government back over 100 years ago. And it has always been the great unfinished business of Ireland. Every exit poll and every election in the last 20, 30 years have always returned a very strong level in the 60 to 70% margin of support of people of the south of Ireland to see reunification happen. But of course, we need to have all of the issues that are associated with that and all of the challenges that are associated with that out on the table and discussed and debated, and solutions found and propositions sought in relation to how those will be managed. And clearly that's the work that needs to happen now.
All right, well, be brief with me, because I'm mindful you're at this conference today, Future of These Islands conference. Be honest with me, 5 years from now, do you really believe you're going to be on a fast track to Irish unity?
Yes, and I think it could have happened within 5 years. We are certainly suggest 2030 is a realistic time frame to get the necessary preparation work done and to hold a referendum in relation to unity. I mean, these things gather pace and they begin to move faster than people can keep up with them. Berlin in 1988, nobody expected the wall to come down, a reunification of Germany within a couple of years. So let's get ahead of this. Let's do the necessary planning and the necessary dialogue, and let's make sure that we have an orderly transition of something which has an inevitability about it, and in polls and all of the trends, the demographic changes point very clearly in one direction.
All right. Well, Conor Murphy, leader of Sinn Féin in the Irish Upper Chamber, thank you very much indeed for joining me on The Times at 1.